24th of June, 2022. I was 22 years old, stood in the desert in New Mexico. I was at this place called the Spaceport America, which is a very grand term for what is really just a very hot, very desolate desert. I was staring off at the horizon in a world of my own. About 30 seconds earlier, I'd launched a rocket. I'd watched it take off from the ground, fly straight up into the sky and behind some clouds, and we hadn't seen it since. Now, this usually wouldn't be a problem, but the GPS data coming back from the rocket says that it's coming back down to the ground about 3 times too fast, which means that the parachutes haven't opened, which means that I've probably created a missile, which means that sometime very soon it will be plowing back down into the ground nose first. As I came to terms with this, 2 thoughts came to my mind. The first was, oh shit, I have really screwed this up. And the second was, how on earth did I get myself into this? We were at the Spaceport America Cup, which is the world's most prestigious student rocketry competition. Now, if you've not heard of that before, I don't blame you. In fact, I'd only found out about it about 18 months beforehand. I had no idea students were building rockets when I stumbled across an advert online for a competition. I've been obsessed with space since I was a kid, and as soon as I'd seen something like this, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. This was in the midst of the COVID pandemic, during lockdown after lockdown. I was bored and started to quickly daydream about running a team, building a rocket, and competing at this competition. I printed out all the rules and spent my Christmas holiday going through them with a highlighter. Now, it's worth noting that I knew practically nothing about building rockets, and I didn't understand what a lot of the rules even meant, but for some reason, after a week or so of thinking about it, I decided, you know what, I'm qualified, I think we can do it. The rocket's got to go up, it's got to carry a payload, got to reach about 10,000 feet, got to deploy a couple parachutes, and it's got to be reusable. I genuinely remember thinking, in my naivety, how hard can it be? When I came back to Leeds, I created a website, and with the help of a few friends, created some social media accounts to get the word out there about the newly founded Leeds University Rocketry Association, or LURA for short. Now, the issue is, we were quite good at getting the word out, and when it came time to recruit my first team members, I remember just being swamped with hundreds of applications. At the time, I was stunned. I mean, I had coursework due in next week. I had no idea how I was going to deal with this. The only job I successfully interviewed for when I was 16 as a waiter, so what did I know about recruitment? So I did the only thing a student does when we get stuck. I picked up the phone, called home, and asked my parents for help. Together, we worked through the mountains of CVs, and they taught me how an interview should run. I conducted 25 interviews in my first week, and after a couple nights worrying about whether I was making the right decision, I settled on a team. To start with, there were 8 of us. Myself, a chief engineer, a chief operating officer, and 5 technical team leaders, each responsible for a different part of the rocket. I vividly remember the first time we met together was in an online meeting. I shared my screen with a countdown timer on it, and it just said 53 weeks to go until the Spaceport America Cup. It's about time we start learning how to build a rocket. At the time, I was just transfixed by the challenge of it all. I mean, it was all I could think about. The idea of developing Leeds' first student-built rocket and taking it to compete at this international competition, that was all that mattered to me. In the summer that followed, the team started to grow and the design started to take shape. We called the rocket the Griffin 1, and people really started to rally behind it. I was always amazed how even some of our newest members were as passionate about the whole mission as I was. We were united behind this common mission. We were creating the opportunities that we wanted to see. Everything that we were doing was the first time it had been done at Leeds, and we felt we were making a difference at the university and to the students who would hopefully one day follow in our footsteps. We were succeeding, and our strong shared vision seemed to be the reason. It wasn't long until March rolled around, and now it was time to put our money where our mouth was. It was time to launch a rocket. We had built a prototype to test some of the systems, and in true student fashion had left pretty much the entire build until the last minute. Together, we stayed up for long days and nights in the workshop and finished the rocket at 4 a.m. on the day of the launch. Now, that day was exactly as hectic as you would imagine. We had no idea what we were doing. We'd not done anything like this of this scale, and the procedures that we'd spent weeks writing beforehand went straight out the window pretty much as soon as we got to the site. It was a stressful day. But to our surprise, when we pressed the big red button, it worked. Now, if I'm honest, I may have hidden it at the time, but I'm not sure anyone really believed it. We didn't have too much time to think about it, though, because in 2 weeks' time, we'll be doing it again, and this time it was the Griffin 1. Now, I cannot stress to you how important this launch was. This was the rocket we'd be taking to America, and we only had enough money to build one. If this launch failed, our competition dreams were well and truly over. But once again, against all the odds, it worked. I remember at this point just thinking, you know what, this whole strong shared vision thing is great, but I mean, maybe it's just luck at this point. Now, we were over the moon about that launch. I'm sorry, I had to get the pun in there somewhere. But we realized then that the only hurdle left to us was the competition. We had a couple months to figure out how to get us and a 3-meter-long rocket to America. When we arrived in the States, we were nervous, to say the least. We were true underdogs, the only English team at the competition, and we had less money and fewer members than anyone else, only being able to afford to take the 7 of us in the leadership team on the trip. Our luck had started to dwindle too. Day 1 of the launch window was cancelled due to rain, which we'd come to expect in the UK, but definitely not what you hope for in the desert. I mean, if that isn't bad luck, I genuinely don't know what is. And then the next day it was the opposite problem. It was so hot that the plastic brackets in our rocket had started to melt. Far from the luck we felt in March, it was genuinely feeling like the world was against us. We had no choice but to pack everything up, head back to the cramped hotel room, and we stayed up all night working together, working through the problem and implementing the fixes. The third day was the final full day of launches in the launch window. If we didn't launch that day, there might be a few hours at the end of the week, but more likely than not, we'd be heading back to the UK in disappointment. It was now or never, and everyone knew it. We turned up to the site early on that day, about 5 a.m., having not really slept at all. We couldn't afford tables, so we worked on the floor, and we started to assemble the rocket. Finally, things started to click into place. I was left wondering if maybe this wasn't about luck, but maybe the true secret was just to keep pushing, just to keep turning up, a bit of perseverance, a bit of persistence, hard work. I mean, it's easy to get them mixed up, right? I'm reminded of the classic quote, "The harder I worked, the luckier I got," and that was definitely my mindset at the time. Fortunately, that day, everything was working. The assembly process that had taken 6 hours the day before took 2 today. And before we knew it, the Griffin 1 was assembled, approved by range control, on the pad, and in the air. And now here I was, staring off at the horizon, hands behind my head, watching the smoke trail that the rocket had left on its ascent drift across the desert, coming to terms with the fact that it had all been for nothing. I had a camera in front of me, and I knew full well that all of our friends and family, the rest of the team back home, our sponsors, the staff at the university, would all be watching our disappointment. My sunglasses, frankly, were the only thing stopping them from seeing the tears in my eyes. What was I going to tell them? I mean, the dream I'd had that Christmas holiday the year before was over. The strong vision that we'd all rallied behind was for nothing. The luck had run out. The hard work just wasn't hard enough. And in that moment, our payload team lead Sam reaches his arm out and pulls Freya in for a hug. Now, I can't imagine what she was feeling in that moment. Freya was the lead of our recovery team, who had designed the system that was meant to deploy the parachutes. It had worked many times before, but clearly something had gone wrong that day. And as hard as she may have tried, I'm sure she struggled to not feel responsible in that moment. Watching this little act of kindness in front of me, it became clear. LURA wasn't about building rockets. It wasn't really even about the engineering opportunities. Definitely wasn't about luck. And as much as hard work played a big part, that wasn't the point. It was about the people. The whole time, it was about the people. From my friends helping me set up the social media accounts, to my parents helping with the recruitment, to the whole team staying up all night before launches, to the sponsors who funded us, to the staff at uni who believed in us, to us 7 stood there in the desert thinking we'd lost it all. When everything else came up short, the people didn't. And just then, Freya points out to the horizon and spots it. The Griffin 1 had just popped out from below the clouds in perfect condition, both parachutes deployed and inflated, making its final few feet of descent down to the ground. We'd done it after all. You know, I learned a lot of lessons that year, and there's a lot I wish I knew when we started out. I mean, there's too much to possibly go into now, but for starters, if your GPS says your rocket is traveling 3 times too fast, consider you might be looking at feet rather than meters. That is one that I will not forget anytime soon. Since then, we've shifted our focus a lot more towards our people. How can we look after and care for each other, and what does it really mean to be part of a team like this? We even rewrote our 5 values, adding a personal favorite of mine, people over rockets, to remind future LURA generations of what really matters. You see, when you're working on a difficult challenge like this, it's so easy for it to become all-encompassing. It's all you can think about. You lose track of what's really important. No matter what level you look at it, there is no rocket without the people. There's no project without the people. There's definitely no LURA without the people. People over rockets. I've graduated now, and the Griffin 1 hangs in the foyer of the Mechanical Engineering building. It's a great place to come and reflect on my time running the team. After all the dust settled, it turns out we actually did pretty well at the Spaceport America Cup. We set the record for the best performance of any UK team in the competition's 15-year history. And that's a record that we're particularly proud of and, frankly, never expected to get. Since then, the team's gone from strength to strength. And I feel we've become a true leader in the UK rocketry scene, hoping to take the UK altitude record at some point in the next year or so with our newest rocket, the Griffin 2. The community we built at Leeds is stronger than ever, and I'm proud to leave behind a legacy as I move on to my next challenge. You know, a close friend of mine, John Bonser, is 72, and he runs the Scottish Aeronautics and Rocketry Association. He's been involved with rocketry his entire life, and he messaged me shortly after the Spaceport America Cup and said something that will always stick with me. Sounds a lot better in his wise Glaswegian accent, so bear with me, but I feel it's worth repeating. He said, "Rockets are philosophical vehicles. Some of you will be getting that now, even if you don't realize it yet." Now that stuck with me because he's right. I mean, he's always got away with words. He makes anything sound poetic, but he was right. All through life, we face these difficult challenges, and we have to overcome things that we just don't know how to deal with. It isn't about the rocket. It could have been anything. It's about the challenge. It's about having a vision of a better world and making a plan of how to get there. It's about surrounding yourself with people who believe in your vision, people who you believe are better than you and can lift you up. It's about stepping firmly out of your comfort zone, surrounded by people that you know will be right there beside you when it all hits the fan. There is one thing I learned building rockets. It's that the greatest assets we have in life are the people around us. So next time you're struggling, next time you feel like the world's coming down around you, next time you have a moment where you think, oh shit, I've screwed it all up. Or next time you don't know where to turn, when you've got an idea but you just don't know how to get it done, pick up the phone. Whether to a parent, a friend, someone you love or someone you've just met, pick up the phone. Tell them you need help. Tell them your vision. Be honest. And if you're on the other end of that call, you know what to do. If you want a friend, be a friend. You know, it would be cool if I could stand up here and say that I did all of this on my own, no help. But I didn't. And there's no way I could have done. I relied on people every single step of the way, no more so than when I was stood in that desert thinking it was all over. I'm not ashamed that I couldn't do it on my own. I'm proud that I shared the journey with the best people. You know, in times like this, it is easy for the world to feel more divided than ever, and sometimes we need a reminder. Don't do life alone. It's a lot more fun with other people. Thank you.